Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Nugget's Dungeon Terrain. In this new project, I'm going to be building a series of sea caves. Inspiration for this series came from watching heaps of Scooby-Doo, The Goonies, and some parts of Pirates of the Caribbean. So I wanted to start this project with the entranceway to set the tone and explore some of the different textures and colours for the whole series. I used this scrap piece of XPS foam, but hopefully some of the ideas you can translate to other mediums as well. If you don't have foam available or a different kind, I'm sure you can still use some of the other techniques in other ways. So from that block I've done 3 1 centimetre horizontal cuts, and the base is left with approximately 2 centimetres thick. For this series I'm trying to break the habit of making all of my lines square. I want this formation to look a little bit more natural. So while I'm using the square marker to get the rough size, I'm going to freehand most of the actual drawings to be cut later. So here's the overall body of the piece ready to go, with the different layers assembled. There is obvious gaps on the sides, but this can be taken care of by painting over or covering using tape. Next I'm using this soldering iron to break up the edges, soften up the lines, and make the overall piece look like natural rock. The corners are the easiest part to do, so before I get to the flat parts I wait until the iron is extra hot, then I just have to hold it close for it to start melting. For visuals and definitely not playability, I decided to add the roof of the cave entrance as well. I'm not going to glue this down, so basically it sets the scene and then it's going to be taken away. The area marked X was cut out using a wire cutter, and then once that was removed, I marked exactly where it needed to line up with the underneath, and then I used the soldering iron to melt away the extra parts. I added some scrap pieces of foam to the top to add some more depth and layer to the area. I then used the soldering iron to melt over and fuse those top pieces to the rest of the body. So the general painting pattern I'm using for this whole series is a black coat and then a light overpaint with grey. The next layer was achieved using another cheap and nasty acrylic called tan. I then stippled some sap green into different random areas, especially focusing on some of the deeper points where more of the dark undercolor was left. And then exactly the same idea but with brown. I then decided to experiment with some volcanic black sand. It wasn't until later that I decided that I didn't really want to carry this effect on through the interior locations, so I later dry brushed some lighter colours over the top. This type of sand retains quite a lot of moisture, so it's very different to work with. A lot of the particles are also magnetic, and it clings together in an unusual way when you try to work it. Using the light green effect from the bottom of this aquarium piece, I trimmed off some pieces and I was going to use this as some roots or plant material hanging down from the cave entrance. Using this leather making tool, I made some guide holes in the roof of the cave. Doing the cave roof gave enough time for the rest of the project to dry, and then I scratched off all of the excess dirt. Using dimensional magic from Mod Podge, I proceeded to fill in some of the smaller potholes. I wanted the terrain to look like it had coastal vegetation, so I started off by using this old piece of brush to make some dune rushes. So firstly a guide hole with a toothpick, then a tiny bit of tacky glue into the hole and place carefully in with the super glued side facing down. Some coastal areas don't have a lot of diversity in the vegetation, but I felt I needed at least 3 different plant types, so I also added some army painter highland tufts and some lichen I'd collected off my trees from outside last summer. Here I'm just placing some of the tufts, trying to work out where they'd sit the best. Once I've decided where they're going to go, a little touch of super glue works much better than just the adhesive they come with. So here's a chance to look at the finished product from a few different angles. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the rest of the series. The next video will be coming out soon.